My name's Joe. This is my 1973 Mustang, and I'm going to show you what it took to go from this to this. Stick around. This is my 1973 Mustang as it sits today. I picked this up earlier in the spring. There's another video about this car, me just kind of picking it up, cleaning it out, and going through it and get it running. So if you haven't seen that yet, check it out. Today I'm going to show you everything that I went through to put this thing back together, get it on the road again, and to make it a fun car again. So thanks for watching. So the first thing I did was look under this car, and there were just parts hanging everywhere. Nothing was attached to anything. And the seats aren't bolted down, they're just hanging out on the floor doing nothing. So the first thing I actually want to do is just get this car emptied out a little bit more, take the seats out, get it vacuumed out, get it cleaned up. And find just mountains and mountains and mountains of mouse house. But that's okay, keep going. Going to put the seats in, I realized that they don't really fit the floor, and I have to come up with a solution to this because they don't work. I removed the brackets from another seat, cut off the originals, and essentially welded them on, and it's good enough for the gals we go with. I then mark out my spots for drilling new holes in this floor, and take my time, do it once, do it right, and drill away. Sits good. By this point I'm bored silly and decide I need to get this car running, so I immediately jump to the first thing and put on the shiny new carburetor because that is the most exciting thing to me in any of these car projects. And that is one fine looking carburetor. This car didn't have a transmission cooler on it, and I had one laying around. I don't even know what it was actually out of, but it fit the bill and worked nicely for this. I just kind of zip tie it on, get the lines, run to the transmission, and that's all it was to it. Nothing crazy. After this, I tackled the strut's lack of nuts on them, so I zing a couple on each side, and away she goes. It looks really good. Probably should have used some washers. I slung in the steel lines, and I'm just putting in some final touch of a rubber hose, and I just use a fuel cell. Thanks, Chad. And I'm ready to run it. Next on the list was reupholstering these seats. Now, I've never done this before, and I really didn't know what I was doing, but the cushions themselves were in pretty good shape, so I thought I had a pretty good base to start from, if anything. So took off the old leather, put the new stuff on, and actually I'm pretty pleased with how they came out in the end. So they're not perfect, but they're certainly good enough for my butt. So I'm pleased with them. As I moved down to the back seat, I was greeted by a disgusting huge mouse nest, and we spritzed that down best we could, like new, and continued on with our business. As I finished up the first seat, I just got an assembly line process going, and I finished up the rest of them as well. After that, it was time for carpet. I had to remove a couple little widgets and digits and get this thing slung in there the right way, and then the wrong way, and then the right way, and then the wrong way. But eventually it all fell into place and looked pretty decent. After that, I got my seat slung in there, and it fit pretty good, and it ended up sitting really good as well. After that, I got to work on the exterior of the car again. When I got the car, there was no hood closing stuff on it at all. I had to ratchet strap it closed for the ride home, so this would be nice to be able to close that hood. The grill went in, and I was actually able to screw it in, so it wasn't just hanging there like when I got it. It was just laid in there, it had no function. It was just ready to fall out. Side markers on either side looking good. Just about ready to close the hood and see if that works. And it doesn't. It's way too short. It doesn't come up far enough. So I've actually got to loosen these up and bring the hood a bit more forward. But luckily, it actually works really nicely, and I'm quite pleased with that. Next going on is the valance. I get that cleaned up actually, and I decided to give it a fresh coat of paint because why not make this thing look like brand new, right? And I just get that slung up there best I can. I got to use a little bit of zip tie action to give myself another hand because it's kind of flimsy and odd shaped, but finally I get it bolted in, get one side and then I get the other, and it looks pretty good actually. Next, I just sort of clean up all the interior trim pieces and all that good stuff. It had all been sitting in a barn or in a car or something for so long that it's all dusty, rusty, and musty. So I just put a little bit of Armor All on it and cleaned it up. You can see obviously before it was missing a bunch of parts and just not looking that good, but then it's all refreshed, looking pretty, looking new paint, new seat covers, looks really nice. I did have to deal with the tie rod ends. One was busted off and the other one was spinning in its socket, wouldn't do, so I got those replaced. About $100 for the pair, but they were actually pretty good quality and I was pretty pleased with them, and they went in easy and they rotate easy too. The last really big thing I have to do on this thing is the exhaust, and it was exhausting. It was just a lot of work to sling these things up and around just by myself. Could have used a helper for sure, but I think I cut one that's right, and I shouldn't have. I should have tried to sling it in by itself, but it eventually all worked out. I just had to end up welding it back together, but it is what it is, and I was still pretty pleased with the end result. I did get these tucked up tighter after this, but they're hanging low. And it's looking pretty good, and I think we're ready for our first test drive. That's pretty good. Choke's a little sticky. Use a little bit of that. I think I need some more ATF. first test drives are always so scary. You never know what's gonna work, what's not gonna work, what's gonna break your heart. Already I've noticed that the power steering feels a little bit better. Fluid in it. The brakes, the booster's not working. Rock hard. It still stops, but it's like having mechanical brakes. But they are discs, so it's not the worst. I really don't know how long it's been since this thing has been on the road. The guy had got it from has had it for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years probably, maybe more. Speedo's not working. Tires are eating themselves. Got to cut this short. I just put tie rod ends on this thing, and not very well aligned, obviously. I can just feel them eating themselves. These are good tires. I don't want to ruin them. But other than that, it's not. Oof, you can hear them squealing though. I have to get the tape measure out. Get somebody to come help me align this thing. But it moves. It moves. It's about 20 feet long, 130 horsepower, and weighs about 1 million pounds. I love it. So I don't know how easy it is to see on video, but this one is pointing just way far out that way. That'll really have to be rectified before I give it another try, because that'll just eat that tire instantly. So just give me a second. Now I got a little bit better. That camber's still a little off on that side, but it's good enough for a quick drive. Pointing generally the same direction now. But backyard eyeball alignments are not the way to do things, but I want to drive this thing today for a little bit. See what else it might need. So here we are. Gotta do what you gotta do. This thing is so unruly to drive. The front of it is just ridiculously long. Oh, the brakes lock up. I just don't have any rear ones, so maybe it's not so bad. Famous last words. Shifted. Steering's still pretty vague. There's third. If the steering wasn't so sketchy, I'd go a little faster. I may be going 35, 40 miles an hour right now, maybe a little faster, but not crazy. You know, I don't want to die on this maiden voyage of it. I still haven't figured out how to work the top yet, so there's no seat belts. But the chairs are pretty comfy, I must say. It's got a good ride position. You just sink right into the floor in this thing. I dig it. And I definitely feel like a smooth operator in this thing. You cannot see anything out of this though. It's crazy they let people drive these. When the hood, you have that in conjunction with how the angle of the windshield, and you've got about 12 inches of, you know, looking out the window and actually seeing. It's outrageous. But it feels cool. I gotta get the top working though. That's the whole reason I bought this thing. And there's no shocks in the back, so it's a little bouncy in the rear, but otherwise, it's not too bad. Some clunking, some scary clunking. That could just be the exhaust though. It's laying right up on some metal, which I gotta rectify. It's just kind of slung in there right now. Oh, but it's enough to make you nervous. Like I said, these first test drives are scary. You don't know what every clunk and everything else is. I went all around this thing. Loose bolts everywhere. So I'm sure there are some more somewhere that I gotta find. And yeah, that makes me a little nervous, but you gotta live. Gotta go take it for its first bath. And ladies and gentlemen, I cannot make this up. You know what happens when you treat a project car a little too good? Of course, that's right, it doesn't start. Why would it? I checked and made sure it had fuel. That was the most obvious thing to me, of course. And I ended up popping the hood and I'm feeling around. The coil is hotter than can be. So I know right away it's more than likely it's just the coil. But isn't it just one of those things, like you treat a car good, you go and give it a bath, and then it just leaves you stranded like that? And I was just trying to get a lovely shot of me driving off into the sunset with the thing. So I ran down to my shop and grabbed the spare coil I had and got that slung in there. And boy howdy, it cranked just long enough to, make me put some fear back into it and realize who was boss there. But don't worry, I got the shot. So that is the story of the Mustang. I got that top working. I just kind of unlatched it and pulled it down with the Armstrong method. The hydraulics don't work. That's a real bummer. I got the tailpipe strapped up a little higher. It's running pretty darn good. It was a lot of fun to work on it. I touched almost every nut and bolt on this car. It still needs a bunch of work, but it's good enough to drive around for a few nice days this summer. But thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you like Mustangs, if you like this channel, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know if you want to see this car again. Thanks for watching.